Hello, this is the Cobra QS2800 quiet shredder with a powerful 2800 watt motor, and it's ideal for shredding all your prunings in the garden so you can make chippings and a nice mulch to use around the garden. This is how it arrives in this box. It's a sturdy piece of kit. So what I'm going to do is just open the box up, take it out, and we'll show you how to assemble it so you can get shredding. So this is it all unpackaged on the bench here. So just very quickly, this is the container that will catch all the shreddings as you feed them through it. This is the shredder itself. And then we've got the various things here that we need, the wheels and all the screws and things to make up the framework. And this is the solid base that the container goes underneath and the shreddings drop down into, and the shredder sits on the top. So we've now got to assemble all of this. And although I'm going to show you how to do this, there is also an owner's manual there that has got everything in there that you need to know about it, and step-by-step instructions on how to put it together. So hopefully the video will help, but if you do need to reference anything, it will be in there as well for you. So first thing is we need to get the axle and the wheels on this. So what we're going to do is just turn this upside down like that, okay? So that we're going to have wheels on so you can maneuver it around the garden. So we've got here this axle, and that just slides through there like that. And at each end of this, there is a hole. So we then need a wheel for each side. And in this little bag here, we have got some washers and split pins. So there's 4 washers and 2 split pins. So we need 2 of the washers, 1 of the split pins. And what we're going to do is to put a washer on the axle. Then the wheel can go on. So it just slides into place like that. Then we can put the second washer on, and then the little split pin. So then we need to push that through the hole, out the other side, and then that will bend around. And what we can do is get a pair of pliers in a minute and just finish that off. But basically the split pin stops that coming out. So I will do that in a bit more detail in a second. And then again around this side. So what we need to do here is to pop on our washer, our wheel, and then the other washer, and then again the second split pin will just go down through there. Okay, so split pin is just bent over like that, so the wheel can turn, but it then can't pull off the shaft. Like that. Okay, so that's now held that firmly into place like that. Then we've got our hubcaps, okay, decoration only, but they will then just clip into place. So just line them up like that and click them in one at a time. Just push that in, and that one in there, and they will just clip in. Might just need a little bit of pressure, just push it down, and in they go like that. And then obviously do the one on the other side. Okay, so hubcaps on, wheels are secure. We've then got 2 feet that are going to go on here like this. So bear in mind this is upside down at the moment, so they sit on there like that, and there are 2 large screws that then go up from underneath. So they go into the base of that. So I'm just going to start that by hand, and then you need a Phillips screwdriver, and we can just tighten those into position there. And then once that one is nice and tight, just repeat the one on this side just here. So I'm going to push that up through the hole to start with, pick up the hole, and just screw that into position. Give them a really good tighten so they won't wobble off. So they're in position, and then we can flip this over, and that's the way that it will stand. So the idea is that when this is all put together, when we want to move it around, we just lift it up and we can trundle it around on those wheels like that. Now we need to fit the shredder unit onto this framework. So it will only fit on one way, but to make it easier, I'll show you how we're going to do it. So I'm going to twist that round so the wheels are facing that way. And if we look on the top, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screw holes. So we're going to put a screw in from underneath that will screw in to the base. So if we just tilt this onto its side, and it's quite heavy this, so we've got a hole there, 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 and there. So when this goes on, it will only fit one way. So it's quite heavy, this is. So I'm just going to lift that onto there, and then we can just maneuver it around a little bit, because what it will do, it will slot into position like that. So that is now fallen into the framework. So, but we need to secure that. So there are 4 smaller screws here. Each have got built-in washers with them. And then they're going to go into these 4 holes up through there. So I'm just going to put the screw into there, put that to there, and then tighten that. And then we've just got one more that goes at the front. And once I've got them all in, what I'm going to do is just go around them all and check them again to make sure they are super tight. So they need to be really tight. Of course, if you've got a power tool to do it, that makes it a little bit easier, but it needs to be so that it is really firmly attached to this base. If you can wobble it and you can see the screw, obviously there's more thread to put in. So what we're going to do in a minute is lift it down, but at this point I just want to stress the fact that for transport, this will be wound in completely. This is basically the blades inside, but if you start it up where they're wound in, you will cause damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to slacken that right the way off, and it really is important that you do that. We can tighten it up later, but we're going to slacken it off before we plug it in and get the shredder working. But what we'll do now is lift it down and we can show you how to put the box in. Before we plug it in and show you how to adjust it, just a couple of things to mention. You might want to know what this is for. Well, this is actually a bit of a prodder. So if anything needs pushing down, if you've got some softer material, you can push it down. You must never ever put your hand in there, of course. The blades are down here lower than this, so this isn't going to touch the blades, but it will push things in the direction of the blade should you need to. And for storage, there's a little slot on the side here where that just goes there. So a nice little handy storage place for that, and it locks into position if you push it. Once you've put your material in there and it's shredded, it drops out through the bottom. So this container catches it, and this will only go in one way. So as we're standing here, if we look on this, there is a little arrow, and that is the direction we put it in. So it goes in from this end of the machine. It will only go in one way because you've got an axle at the other end, so you can only put it in this way, but you must get it in the right direction, and that just simply slides into there. But then if we look around the back here, we can see here there is a lock, and at the moment that is just loose, and we need to lock that into position, and we just slide that up and that locks it into position. Now you cannot start the blades until that is locked into position. So if when you come to switch it on and you think it's not working, just double check that that is locked into position. As soon as that knocks down, then it switches everything off. So it's a safety mechanism that you've got there. If we look at the controls on the top here, it's quite simple. We've got the green button switches it on, the red button switches it off. If for some reason it trips, this is a little breaker switch here, so that will reset it. So if it doesn't work again for whatever reason, something's got clogged and you've cleared it, push that to reset. That switches it on, that switches it off. And you can also make the blades go in 2 directions. So if you're changing the direction of the blade from cutting to sort of bringing it back out again, you've always got to switch it off first. So it's switch it off, change direction, switch it on, and then switch it off to reverse it again. So really simple to use. The arrow pointing downwards is basically when your prunings are going down. So you'd have it in the down position. If it gets blocked, then what you would do is stop it and then you'd put it so it's pushing up, and that basically pushes out the prunings that way. But when it is pushing it out, you have to have that button held down continuously as a safety precaution. So it's really simple to do. What we'll do is we'll plug it in and show you how to use it. We're plugged in now, so we've got a red light just here on the control, so we know we've got power. As I mentioned before, should you be plugged in and you don't have that red light, it may be because this hasn't been pushed down enough. So I've just released that, but when I lock that into position, we can see now we have that red light there. So we're ready to go. To remind you that that must be wound out all the way before we adjust it. So we can now, we've got the red light, we're in the downward chopping position, we can push the green button in there like that. So we can now hear the blades are going down. That's fine, and we would feed in our waste material into the top. But if we want to reverse it, we would stop it, we'd push it into the reverse position, and then we hold it with a button. If we let go of the button, it will stop. So that has to be held down just to clear the blockage, and then we can go back and away we go again. So it's really simple. But to get it to cut, we need to adjust the blades so that they are cutting. We don't want them too tight, otherwise it strains the motor. If they're too loose, then the shreddings will go through without chopping. So I'm going to switch it on and then turn this in a clockwise direction until we hear it sort of, almost call it like a kissing. You could just hear the blades touching each other. So we're just going to wind that in gently. In a minute we'll hear the noise change. That is the noise we want. So the blades are now just touching, and that will give us a really efficient cut when we're putting our shreddings through. And as that wears, we might need to adjust it a little bit more, but it's important that you don't have it too tight, because I say it will strain the motor and it will just damage the blades.
Remember to register your Cobra online at cobragarden.co.uk. Always have your Cobra serviced regularly. Check the website for your nearest dealer.